got the biggest arms, I got the greatest charm, and I do all the harm.
In the brutal world of MMA, few names spark as much intrigue and fervor as Chael Sonnen, a fighter who never backed down, a master of mind games who held audiences spellbound, and an unyielding competitor forever chasing the pinnacle of the sport.
That's interesting. Why would he do that? Yeah. He's a weird guy.
More than just a fighter, Sonnen carved his legacy as an MMA icon. Yet his path to greatness wasn't without its shadows and challenges. From his initial forays into the cage to his most celebrated victories and the controversies that shaped him. This is the story of Chael Sonnen. Oregon gave us majestic forests, craft beers, and the iconic Voodoo Donuts. But on April 3rd, 1977, it outdid itself by gifting us Chael Sonnen. While many UFC fighters recount tales of grit and grind, Chael grew up in West Lynn and had a more pampered upbringing. He'll be the first to joke about his silver spoon childhood.
You know, you look at me, there was years where my father didn't even make $100,000. Or barely made $100,000. And sure, we had a maid, but she only came twice a week. What do you think happened the other 5 days? You think those dishes washed themselves? You think those clothes got themselves in the hamper? My neighbors were twins. They got a Mercedes for their birthday, but just one. They had to share that car. They had to share that car. Who gets to drive today? I had to see these things. You ask me about being a gangster. You think I'm scared to go to Brazil? You haven't seen the things I've seen. You haven't been down that way. You haven't been to the mean streets of Westland, Oregon.
At 9, Sonnen began wrestling and kept refining his skills throughout his childhood and teenage years. His talent became undeniable during his time at Westland High, where he was a state runner-up. After high school, he hopped from Brigham Young University to the University of Oregon, probably chasing better wrestling mats. There, he racked up awards like they were going out of style. He earned All-American honors, was a 2-time Pac-10 runner-up, was a silver medalist at the 2000 Greco-Roman World University Championships, and was a 2-time Dave Schultz Memorial International Greco-Roman winner. He was so talented that he flirted with the idea of joining the WCW.
Yes, I went and did a tryout. I did a pro wrestling tryout. My father had sent me to Atlanta, something called the Power Plant, WCW.
But deep down, mixed martial arts was where his heart was. And so he started his MMA career in 1997 at the age of 19 by defeating Ben Haley in Vancouver, Washington. He next defeated future Icon Sport middleweight champion and Strikeforce middleweight contender Jason Mayhem Miller.
Dana was in the audience. Dana used to go to a whole bunch of MMA shows and scout. He'd go out there and recruit. So, all right, I get in the ring, I'm fighting Mayhem, and something happened on the takedown. I had a double leg and I took Mayhem down. Well, the cage broke. The cage just absolutely gives way. And I mean, it was like Mayhem disappeared. My mother was in the audience and she said from her vantage point, you could no longer see Mayhem.
Chael Sonnen!
From the outset, Sonnen's career was marked by a series of impressive victories. 6 consecutive wins set the stage for a promising journey. Yet 2003 introduced a challenge in the form of Trevor Prangley, who handed Sonnen a humbling defeat. Undeterred, Chael continued to hone his skills and face opponents across a number of organizations, never losing sight of his goals.
I wanted to be world champion since I was a little kid. I used to watch Sugar Ray Leonard fight, and I'd go put on my black trunks and tape up my hands and come in the kitchen and throw a bunch of punches in front of my mom, tell her I was going to beat up Sugar Ray someday. And that wasn't to get on TV and it wasn't to get money. That was, I want the belt. I want to be world champion. I want, one day, one moment, one night, best in the world. And that's what it's all about for me. Every day, that's what I think about.
He first stepped into the UFC ring against the former IFC light heavyweight champion Renato Sobral at UFC 55 in October 2005. The match ended with Sonnen tapping out to a triangle choke in the second round. Not one to be deterred, he came back strong, settling a score with Trevor Prangley at UFC Ultimate Fight Night 4 by securing a unanimous decision win. However, at UFC 60, he faced Jeremy Horn and succumbed to an armbar. Following this, the UFC decided to release him.
And I could never be at ease with Jeremy. There was never a point, no matter how bad I was pounding him, that I could exhale. I knew he's still got an armbar coming. He's still going to try this guillotine. He was real slick with the elbows. Like before Tony Ferguson was cutting people over, Jeremy Horn was cutting people open with elbows. He was very tricky.
By August 2010, Sonnen, having made his UFC comeback in February 2009, had firmly re-established himself with an impressive record of 28 wins and 10 losses. Ahead of him was a challenge that was as much a clash of personalities as it was of fighting styles, a bout against Anderson Silva. Silva, at this moment in time, was more than just a dominant force in the MMA world. He was its silent maestro.
I mean, that's just amazing.
Hailing from Brazil, he let his fists and feet do the talking, often leaving his English-speaking opponents and the media with little more than his enigmatic smile and a translator's interpretation. His fighting style was fluid, almost balletic, making him a revered figure in the middleweight division. Enter Sonnen, the antithesis to Silva's quiet demeanor, brash, outspoken, and unapologetically confident.
Anderson Silva is easily the most unpopular fighter in this company.
Sonnen was the MMA's resident loudmouth.
I'm not in here to get the silver medal or say I one time fought in the main event in the UFC. I'm here purely to win the world championship, period. And it doesn't have a lot to do with Anderson. Getting to beat up Anderson is just a bonus.
There was a lot of hype around this matchup. Here was Silva, the silent assassin, up against Sonnen, the verbal gunslinger.
There's this dirtbag named Anderson Silva.
When Anderson Silva walks into a room, you could hear a rat piss on cotton.
I don't want to fight Anderson. I want to beat him down.
This guy's not from a bowing culture. You bow in Brazil, they'll hit you over the head and take your wallet out of your pocket.
As the two prepared to face off, fans were on the cusp of experiencing a rivalry that would go down as one of the most electrifying in UFC history. In the UFC's storied past, there have been rivalries that have kept fans on the edge of their seats. Despite intense feuds between the likes of Tito Ortiz and Ken Shamrock or Michael Bisping and Dan Henderson, there is one that stands head and shoulders above the rest: Anderson Silva versus Chael Sonnen. Silva, long considered the world's premier fighter, often seemed uninterested in his matches. This was glaringly obvious during his UFC 112 bout with Demian Maia, where he deliberately dodged contact for much of the last 2 rounds.
So while we're getting these guys in, believe me, I'll answer the questions of what a disgrace the main event was and what an embarrassment it is. I don't think I've ever been more embarrassed in the 10 years of being in this business. And it's the first time that I've ever walked out on a main event and given the belt to the guy's manager and told him to put it on him.
But when Sonnen came onto the scene, armed with a barrage of insults targeting Silva and Brazil, it was as if a switch had been flipped. Silva had found more than just another rival. He had found an enemy.
Well, Chael Sonnen, people forget how good he was at talking shit.
He was the best.
The best.
He was the best. When Anderson Silva walks into the ring, you can hear a mouse pissing on cotton. When I walk in, it's thunder. I mean, the promos he would cut were just the best. And that hadn't been done yet. Now it's done a lot.
At the weigh-ins, Sonnen said that everyone was witness to Silva's pre-retirement party. And in the build-up to the fight, he said that he would have Silva on his back more than a hooker with a mortgage. When all the introductions were over and it was time to fight, that's exactly what the former University of Oregon Division I All-American wrestler did. Sonnen brutalized Silva with vicious strikes and a dominating ground game.
He's hitting some big shots.
For 4 rounds, Sonnen controlled the fight both standing and down on the mat, giving Silva the biggest challenge of his career.
This is more shots than Anderson Silva has taken in his entire MMA career.
As the 4th round neared its end, Silva began showing signs of a comeback. He delivered sharp elbows from his back, causing a gash above Sonnen's left eyebrow. By the 5th round's beginning, Silva's confidence was evident in his smile and footwork, while Sonnen appeared worn out.
5th and final round!
The 5th round mirrored the earlier ones, with Sonnen aggressively pursuing Silva and then showcasing his superior wrestling. As he continued his assault, however, a twist of fate occurred. Silva, leveraging his Brazilian jiu-jitsu expertise, trapped Sonnen in a triangle choke, leading to Sonnen's submission.
He talked a lot of smack and came in and backed it up and proved it. He was less than 2 minutes away from winning the fight. And one of the things, if you look throughout history in the fight game, when you look at a guy like Anderson Silva, who is the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, tonight, the fight that happened tonight is the stuff that makes legends, This guy got roughed up and beat up for almost 5 full rounds, but finds a way to win.
Silva's hand was raised in victory as he successfully defended his middleweight title for the 8th straight time. He also extended his undefeated streak to an impressive 13 fights.
4 rounds into the fight, grabs a hold of it, syncs up the triangle, and gets a triangle armbar combination and taps him.
Wow.
As for Sonnen, the early talk was that with the most dominating performance by any MMA fighter against Anderson Silva, he deserved an instant rematch.
Sure, I'm devastated. I came in second. I worked hard and did what I could do and all that nice stuff. But at the end of the day, you either get your hand raised or you don't. And I didn't. And that's it. And I'll live with it. But I'm devastated.
After his match with Anderson Silva, tests revealed Sonnen had a testosterone level 16.9 times higher than the average man's, way above the limit allowed to athletes who are undergoing testosterone replacement therapy. As a result, the California State Athletic Commission fined him $2,500 and suspended him for a year. Sonnen appealed the ruling. The hearing was held on December 2010.
35, the hearing of disciplinary complaint against mixed martial artist Chael Sonnen.
The principal grounds of his appeal were that he had a medical justification for taking testosterone. He testified he had been diagnosed with hypogonadism, a medical term for decreased functional activity of the testicles, and was undergoing testosterone replacement therapy, self-injecting synthetic testosterone 2 times a week. His doctor supported his claims.
Testosterone's not illegal, which we all found out. It's perfectly legal. I followed all the rules as I understood them.
We run toward regulation. I'm always all about athletic commissions and always do whatever I'm told by the athletic commissions. But I think what happened to Chael Sonnen was above and beyond what would normally happen in boxing.
You think it was already decided before you even got in there?
Listen, I'm not a big fan of what happened.
In his sworn testimony, Sonnen claimed to have been previously approved for TRT by the Nevada State Athletic Commission and to have even spoken directly to its executive director, Mr. Keith Kaiser, who informed him he was approved for TRT and should not again disclose the treatment on the pre-bout medical disclosure statements required by the commission. However, Keith Kaiser denied ever approving Sonnen for TRT or even speaking with him at all on the subject. Contradicted Sonnen's testimony, it would also turn out that there was no documentary evidence of Sonnen ever being approved for TRT.
Chael, any comments about the commission decision?
After his suspension, Sonnen returned to the UFC on October 2011 to submit Brian Stann with a triangle choke.
He looks in great shape, Jay. Look at that. He looks fantastic.
3 months later, in January 2012, he would find himself squaring off against another notorious trash talker, Michael Bisping.
He's very delusional, and if anything, I'm starting to feel sorry for the guy. He's almost becoming the court jester of the UFC.
Chael, there's a lot on the line here for you, a rematch against Anderson Silva. How do you focus on Mike, the task at hand, tomorrow night?
When all is said and done, I will still be undefeated and undisputed.
See, it goes back to exactly what I'm talking about. Undefeated, undisputed. He's been defeated many times, and Saturday night he will be defeated one more time.
The match highlighted the expertise and tenacity of both fighters. Bisping shone with his striking and takedown defenses, while Sonnen tapped into his wrestling roots, achieving key takedowns as the fight progressed. This approach appeared to influence the judges, leading to Sonnen's unanimous decision win. However, this result didn't sit well with many in the MMA community who felt Bisping had the edge.
It was a close fight. It was a good fight. I could have won that. I could have stopped it, but I didn't. Well done to Chael, but this is not the last you're going to see of me, and I will be fighting for the title, and I will bloody win it.
Yeah, the whole thing surprised me. You know, here's how I looked at this fight going into it, in my own head and in my own heart. This is a big fight. This is a tough fight. This is not going to be a close fight. I'm going to run through him like I've ran through everyone else. And I've never lost a round of fighting in my life, let alone the UFC. I've never lost anywhere. I fought 48 men. I've never lost a round. Never had a round go against me. And I had 2 different judges. I can't say that anymore. He was a tough fight. There's no way around it, and I'm not going to disparage anything that he did. He's a tough fight.
Michael told us after the fight.
And this finally takes us to July 2012. When Sonnen found himself once again facing Silva in a highly anticipated rematch.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming today. We appreciate it.
When the rematch with Silva was announced, the fight was considered by many analysts and several major media outlets as the most highly anticipated bout in UFC history.
And say what you want about Chael. I know he says some crazy shit, but he's the only guy to ever challenge Anderson Silva since he's been in the UFC and since 2004. He's the only guy that's ever even come close.
Going into the match, the strategies were clear-cut. Sonnen aimed to grapple and control on the ground, while Silva's plan was to maintain a stand-up fight. All right, out of the gate, Sonnen played his cards, getting Silva down on the mat.
Takedown by Sonnen, 5 seconds.
The American Gangster was in the driver's seat for the whole round, wrapping it up in a neat full mount.
Round 1 to Sonnen again.
In the subsequent round, Silva adeptly adapted his strategy, dodge the takedown, and exploit Sonnen's errors. When Sonnen misjudged a spinning back fist, Silva seized the opportunity. He delivered a precise knee to Sonnen's sternum, followed by a series of strikes, resulting in a second-round TKO victory.
I fight Chael, I don't have problem. I don't have nothing for Chael. Chael respect my country, but it's fine. This is a sport, this is UFC. Chael, thanks for fight, bro.
Ladies and gentlemen, the champion, Anderson Silva.
He fought a motivated, fired up, in shape, aggressive Chael Sonnen tonight. A Chael Sonnen who did what he said he was going to do. He put him on his back. He roughed him up like nobody else has, again. And he came out and he won in the second round. The guy's a freak of nature. He is, I just think he's the greatest fighter of all time. So.
In April 2013, Sonnen and Jones faced off at UFC 159 for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. Previously, Sonnen had agreed to challenge Jones at UFC 151. The original UFC 151 main event was to feature champion John Jones against Dan Henderson. However, just 8 days before the fight, Dan Henderson had to pull out citing a knee injury, and there was only one fighter who was willing to fight Jones on 8 days' notice. That fighter was none other than Chael Sonnen. But Jones ultimately turned the fight down, and the entire event was canceled. This decision led to widespread criticism, with many, including Dana White, pointing fingers at Jones and his coach, Greg Jackson.
So this is probably one of my all-time lows as being president of the UFC over the last 11 years. For the first time in 11 years, we're going to cancel an event.
John Jones. Oh, John Jones. It's interesting. Why would he do that? Yeah. He's a weird guy.
As already stated, the bout would effectively take place later at UFC 159 in April 2013. From the outset, Jones showcased his dominance. He managed to take Sonnen down multiple times, displaying his superior wrestling skills. A surprising turn of events, considering Sonnen's wrestling background. Jones controlled the entire fight from the top position, landing an effective ground and pound. The end came in the first round when Jones unleashed a barrage of strikes, causing the referee to step in and stop the fight. With this victory, Jones successfully defended his light heavyweight title. The win was significant for Jones, not only because he defended his title, but also because he managed to beat Sonnen at his own game, wrestling. In the aftermath of the fight, as the adrenaline began to wear off, it became evident that John Jones had sustained a significant injury. Cameras caught a glimpse of his left big toe, which was gruesomely dislocated and bleeding. The bone had pierced through the skin, making for a sight that was not for the faint-hearted. The injury is believed to have occurred during one of the takedown attempts, although the exact moment wasn't immediately clear. Jones himself seemed unaware of the extent of the injury until his post-fight interview inside the Octagon. When asked about his performance in the fight, Jones looked down, noticed his toe, and his expression shifted from elation to shock.
You are a true champion, my friend, for even attempting to make this interview work while you're dealing with one of the nastiest foot injuries I've ever seen. Congratulations to you, sir. You are still the UFC light heavyweight champion.
Had the referee noticed John Jones's gruesome toe injury during the bout, he could have deemed the injury too severe for Jones to continue, declaring a TKO in favor of Sonnen.
Obviously, this is the first time you're realizing that John had a broken toe. If you had just gotten through that round, there was only a few seconds left to go. Who knows what would have happened in the second?
He's an excellent fighter. I have no problem with the decision or the stoppage. He's very powerful. When he went for the kill, he never stopped. I thought I was all right, but I think he's a better fighter.
What was your strategy coming into this?
Sonnen bounced back a couple of months later in a match against Mauricio Rua. From the outset, Sonnen was aggressive, pushing the pace and looking for opportunities to take the fight to the ground. Rua, known for his striking and Muay Thai skills, tried to fend off Sonnen's takedowns and find an opening for his powerful punches and kicks. However, Sonnen's grappling proved to be the difference maker. In the first round, after some back-and-forth exchanges, he managed to secure a guillotine choke, forcing Rua to tap out. This submission victory was a significant win for Sonnen, especially after his loss to Jones. The win over Rua was a testament to Sonnen's versatility and ability to bounce back from defeats. It also highlighted his top-tier wrestling and submission skills, which he hadn't always been credited for in the past. Following that, he faced Rashad Evans.
I was doing a show in Indianapolis with Rashad. He was sitting right here, and Dana sent me a text and said, hey, I need to talk to you. I want to announce your next fight tonight on Fox Sports 1. And I said, as long as it's at 205 and it's not Rashad, I'm in. And he wrote back, it is Rashad. So I held the phone up to Rashad. We were on a commercial break and just let him read it. And I didn't say anything. I just he read the whole thing. And then a few minutes later, I had to do what's called a toss, where once I get done speaking, I tossed to Rashad by looking at him, and I could feel him sizing me up the whole rest of the show. Then I felt myself doing the same thing to him. But
Both fighters entered the Octagon with a wrestling background, but their fighting styles had evolved differently over the years. Sonnen, known for his relentless pressure and grappling, looked to control the fight and keep Evans on the back foot. Evans, on the other hand, had developed a more balanced game over the years, blending his wrestling with striking.
Oh, big right here by Rashad Evans.
The fight, however, was more one-sided than many anticipated. Evans showcased his superior wrestling and ground control. In the first round, after some initial exchanges, Evans managed to take Sonnen down and transition to a half-guard position. From there, he unleashed a barrage of ground and pound, eventually securing a crucifix position and continuing his assault until the referee stepped in to stop the fight. For Sonnen, this loss was a tough pill to swallow, especially coming on the heels of his victory over Rua. Things would only get worse when news broke in June 2014 that Sonnen had failed a random drug test administered by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. The substances detected were anastrozole and clomiphene, both of which are banned performance-enhancing substances. Anastrozole is typically used to treat breast cancer, but can also be used to counteract the side effects of steroids. Clomiphene is used as a fertility drug for women, but can boost testosterone production in men. It's often used by athletes to boost testosterone levels, especially after a cycle of steroids. Sonnen explained that these substances were part of his regimen to transition off testosterone replacement therapy. See, earlier that year, the Nevada State Athletic Commission had dropped a bombshell banning TRT exemptions. Fighters like Sonnen, who had been on TRT under therapeutic exemptions, were left scrambling. But the storm wasn't over. Shortly after, another revelation hit. Sonnen had failed a second drug test. This time, the list was longer and more concerning. Human growth hormone, recombinant human erythropoietin anastrozole, and human chorionic gonadotropin.
On the heels of a recently failed drug test, UFC title contender Chael Sonnen has announced his retirement from competitive mixed martial arts. I'm Jim Baskin with the latest ESPN headlines.
On June 11, 2014, amidst the whirlwind of controversy, Sonnen announced his retirement from MMA. The Nevada State Athletic Commission, taking a firm stance, handed him a 2-year suspension the following month.
I always believe that if you had to take the TRT, you're probably too old to be fighting anyway. And this is a young man's game. So, the guy has had a great career. He's been fun. He's made a lot of money. He's become very famous. And in the way that he has performed in the UFC, he has created a life for himself outside of fighting. Fox loves this guy. Every day we get pitched TV show ideas, and everybody wants Chael Sonnen involved in their TV show. Whenever people call us, looking for a fighter to do a movie, Chael Sonnen is the first guy that pops into everybody's head. So he's going to do. He just got married. He's got his girl pregnant now. He's going to have a baby. Life is looking very good for Chael Sonnen outside of the Octagon.
Yet, the world of MMA is as unpredictable as it is fierce. After serving his suspension, Sonnen emerged once again, this time signing with Bellator in 2016.
Got all your letters to my house. I see all your comments on social media. I promise you I read that stuff myself. And I want you to know from the deepest part of my heart, I do not care. I have spent no time thinking about you guys. I haven't missed any one of you, and the only time you cross my mind is when I'm thinking of ways to get more of your money. And assure you, soon, you will all contribute to my favorite fund known as the Chael Sonnen bank account. And I'm not going to give any spoilers, but when I make that walk for the first time 15 minutes after, it's going to be one more in the win column, one more for the highlight reel, and one more for the bad guy. Now, let's start the show.
The failed drug tests and the subsequent suspension were significant setbacks in Sonnen's career. However, he managed to bounce back once more, showcasing incredible resilience. In 2016, the news broke. Sonnen had inked a deal with Bellator, signaling his return to the sport and setting the stage for some intriguing matchups. The first of these was against none other than Tito Ortiz, a legend in his own right.
Tito always says I'm using my mouth to get my opportunities. The only person I know that made money using their mouth is his ex-wife.
Their bout, scheduled for January 2017 at Bellator 170, was a clash of titans, with both fighters having storied careers in the UFC. When fight night arrived, Ortiz showcased his grappling acumen, taking Sonnen down and eventually securing a rear naked choke in the first round. Sonnen tapped out, marking a triumphant victory for Ortiz in what he had announced would be his retirement fight. Up next was a long-awaited match against Wanderlei Silva. Right from the opening bell, Sonnen's strategy was evident. He leaned into his wrestling background, a discipline where he had always excelled. In the early exchanges, Sonnen quickly closed the distance, preventing Silva from utilizing his striking. His control was evident. He transitioned between positions, keeping his opponent on the defensive and landing effective ground and pound.
Final minute of the first round.
Silva, known for his aggressive striking and knockout power, found himself thwarted at every turn. Each time he tried to scramble or create space, Sonnen's grappling acumen was on display, keeping the Brazilian legend pinned and under pressure. As the rounds progressed, Sonnen's dominance was consistent. He mixed up his wrestling with short punches and elbows, ensuring Silva couldn't find a rhythm or mount a significant counterattack.
Again, Sonnen fishing for that.
After 3 grueling rounds, the fighters returned to their corners, both showing the wear of battle. But as the judges' scorecards were read aloud, it was clear who had controlled the fight. Sonnen was declared the winner by unanimous decision, a testament to his strategy, execution, and sheer determination.
You never piss off a gangster.
You just heard it, Chael Sonnen, ladies and gentlemen.
This victory wasn't just about points or a win column. It was a redemptive moment for Sonnen, proving that even amidst controversies and setbacks, his skill set remained elite. The momentum from this victory carried Sonnen into another high-profile matchup, this time against the formidable Quinton Rampage Jackson. The bout was set for January 2018 at Bellator 192, and it was more than just a fight. It was the opening round of Bellator's Heavyweight World Grand Prix tournament. As the bout commenced, Sonnen wasted no time in implementing his game plan. He shot in for takedowns, using his wrestling to neutralize Jackson's power. Throughout the fight, Sonnen managed to take Jackson down multiple times, showcasing his superior grappling skills. After 3 rounds of back-and-forth action, Sonnen was awarded the unanimous decision victory, advancing him to the next round of the Grand Prix.
Friends, I got the biggest arms, I got the greatest charm, and I do all the harm.
And so he found himself facing another MMA legend, Fedor Emelianenko. Emelianenko, a revered heavyweight with a notable Pride history, was a tough matchup for Sonnen.
Guys, he hit me so hard it was like a missile. I keep calling it a missile. I got hit with a missile. And I'm going down to the mat. And I'm thinking, yeah, this would be a good time to call it a night, but I'm not going out as the fastest knockout in Bellator history. And I was out of it. I never really recovered from that moment. But he stepped back. He wanted to go on the feet. So he gave me that, second, 2 seconds to stand back up. I'm coming forward, I'm coming right back at him, and now I'm mad. Now I want to get him back. I just want to find him one time. I go down again. So old Chael gets up again. I'm coming, and now I still got one locked and loaded for him. And I know I'm going to find you sooner or later. This happened, I don't know how many times this happened, but it kept happening. Every time I got up, I'm going back down. It felt like a dogfight. For me, I don't know what it felt like for him, but I was hurt early on. I was down 5 seconds in.
The Russian legend defended against Sonnen's takedowns and landed strong hits, ending the fight in the first round with a TKO win, stopping Sonnen's Grand Prix journey.
Yeah, he hurt me early. Everything he did hurt. Everything had bad intentions. and I was trying to recover, and I was kind of drowning out there. But I was impressed. He was very fast. He was very powerful. Looked like he looked when I watched him on TV, but I could feel it.
Well, I tell you what, you put on.
In June 2019, Sonnen faced Lyoto Machida, a former UFC light heavyweight champion known for his elusive karate-based style. Machida's unique striking and defensive capabilities have puzzled many fighters over the years. As the fight began, Sonnen sought to close the distance and negate Machida's striking advantage. However, Machida's precision and timing were on full display. He landed a flying knee in the first round, followed by another in the second, both of which severely rocked Sonnen. The bout concluded in the second round with Machida claiming a TKO victory.
The Dragon! Machida!
These back-to-back losses were tough for Sonnen, and shortly after the Machida fight, he announced his retirement from professional MMA.
As far as getting in there and going with some of these guys and trying to reclaim a championship or get back even to a #1 contenders fight, it's tough. You know, my last 13 fights were all against world champions in 3 different weight classes. I beat 11 of them, but I didn't beat them all, and my time has ended.
You know how retirements go in this sport.
Yeah.
Do you know definitively that this is it for you?
Yes, I'm a man of my word. I told Scott Coker I would give him 5 fights. I gave him those 5 fights. It was up tonight.
Chael Sonnen's MMA journey was a blend of grit, passion, and unforgettable moments. While the championship belt eluded him, it never defined his legacy. Instead, fans will remember Sonnen for his heart, his eloquence, and the brutal battles he brought into the cage. His name stands as a testament not to titles won, but to the spirit of a true warrior and entertainer who gave everything every time he stepped into the fight. In the world of MMA, Sonnen's legacy is about more than belts. It's about resilience, dedication, and an undying passion for the sport.
Chael, one more question for you, and I apologize if this is a difficult one, but you wrote that, great piece on ESPN, and you were talking about how you made that promise to your father. And I'm just wondering if you could have a conversation with your dad right now, what do you think he'd say to you?
I just tell him I tried.